In a classroom, interaction is frequent and very visible. Online, it takes a bit more work on our part to both create it and make it purposeful. Hopefully this short video will help you get started on creating more frequent, higher quality interactions that will increase student learning in your virtual spaces. This presentation was gleaned from several sessions at the Summer Learning Academy from ISTE, the International Society for Technology and Education. I'll link these slides in the video description on YouTube. Links to resources are on the speaker notes. By engaging students in content, we help them to take ownership of their learning. The moment you add student ownership to student engagement, you have empowerment. This is what we want to do. We want to give students agency over their own learning and make it a student-centered learning environment. A quick review of both synchronous and asynchronous instruction in a digital space. Both types of these will occur this year, and it's up to us to create the positive aspects of each while mitigating any negatives. In synchronous instruction, teachers and students gather together and interact in real time. These are going to be your sessions in Blackboard Collaborate or Google Meet. Asynchronous options are going to be when students access learning and material at different times. So you can see the positives and negatives of each. Synchronous instruction, we want to have discussion, we want feedback, more responsive exchanges between teachers and students and between peers. We want to do this to create better feelings of community. They can be challenging to schedule, challenging to differentiate, and we may have technical challenges, especially at home. Certainly going to increase the amount of screen time that students have. For asynchronous options, they can work at their own pace. Their learning experience may be more accessible and differentiated. Students may feel more engaged with the learning experience because they have choice, but it does require students to be somewhat independent, which some students may struggle with. It can feel less personal, and learning material can be misunderstood without immediate clarification. These are all things that we can work on and improve as we go. So the three types of interactions that we want to encourage in a virtual environment are student to teacher, student to student, and student to content. This is a lot like making connections of reading. Each one of these can be accomplished both synchronously and asynchronously. While the title says student to teacher interactions here, the arrow goes both ways for good reasons. You want to ensure that the interaction goes both ways in both synchronous and asynchronous environments. You want to give frequent feedback in asynchronous to make sure that that is going both ways. Some ways that we can support student-to-teacher interactions in a synchronous environment is we still need to have one-on-one conferencing. We can use tools like Pear Deck and Nearpod, and for asynchronous options and interactions, we can use the comment features in G Suite. So when your students are working on their writing, for example, you leave a comment on their work to give them that interaction, that immediate feedback that they need in order to improve their writing. We can also ask questions in Google Classroom as a way to support student-to-teacher interactions. You ask a question, they answer it. It's pretty simple. And you can also create videos for students-to-teacher interactions. It should be noted that any of the links above are either to the tool itself or a help document in the noted feature. The next type of interaction that we want to encourage are student-to-student interactions. We all use collaboration and communication strategies in the classroom. It should be no different in the virtual space. For many of our students, talking with peers is one powerful way they can make meaning of what they're learning. To encourage that online, we use things like online whiteboards. We showcase student work so they can show what they've learned, they can show what they're working on, and we want to encourage back-channel communications also, where they're chatting with each other without our interaction on that communication. And in an asynchronous manner, we can create discussions, group notes, graphic organizers, and we can use Padlet or Flipgrid to make that student-to-student interaction. And that's all going to depend on how we set up those tools. Some tools that support student-to-student interactions are breakout groups in Blackboard Collaborate. We showcase student work and we use online whiteboards. Some asynchronous methods, notice questions in Google Classroom is here again. So if you ask the question, allowing students to reply to one another is a way that they can interact with one another on the responses. Some teachers have used that to great success, even when we were face-to-face instruction last school year. You can also use Padlet and Flipgrid for student-to-student interactions. Again, that's how you set it up. and how they'll use it. The final type of interaction that we want to encourage is student to content. They're making connections to the content. You want to give students time to stop, reflect, and connect with the content. So don't just sit there for 50 minutes and lecture. You want the students to stop, reflect, and connect with the content. You can use polling features in Blackboard Collaborate. You can use Pear Deck. You can use Nearpod. All of these things are going to give students the opportunity to connect with the content in meaningful ways. If you make the content interactive in an asynchronous environment, one way that you can do that is by teaching annotation of notes. So if they're reading content, they can annotate what they're thinking, how they're making connections to the content, and it's going to promote deeper learning. Some tools that support student content interaction are polls, simulations using Breakout EDU. Again, questions in Google Classroom are there. Again, you can use Google Forms, teach active reading, use HyperDocs, Edpuzzle, WiserMe. There are so many different tools that we can use for asynchronous interaction for student to content. I hope this gets you started on your journey to increase student ownership through interaction with content. I've only included FCPS approved tools in these slides, but some do require parental consent for use in the classroom. If you're unsure about this requirement, please ask. Further, let me know how I can help with these tools or any others. Happy planning!